CES Las Vegas. At one time, this was the crown jewel of the technology world, one of the most influential tech events, as they'd call it, at CES. But over the years, we seem to think it's lost its shine. A lot of brands have chosen to do flagship marquee events away from CES and even from MWC. This time, there seems to be a big push on electrification, EVs, because EVs, like the electric experience, are a topic for tech enthusiasts, and we get you all of that on the Tech Today socials, our website, and of course, this lovely show that you've shown so much love to. More importantly, sustainability and health. Now, there were a bunch of these things that were announced, and these slew of announcements aside, the most important thing about CES this year is that it's back in full splendor. The last couple of years were muted because of the pandemic. Last year was maybe half the capacity. The year before that, it was virtual. It's back, but is it really back with a bang? For that, I have a very special guest on the show, live from Las Vegas. We have with us Jeff Fieldhack. Jeff, thanks so much for joining us on the show.
It's a pleasure to be here. Thanks for having me.
Jeff, what an interesting way to kickstart 2023, given CES was a bit toned down, muted for the last couple of years during the pandemic. This is a full-fledged show back again. But the question is CES back with a bang?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think it is. Last year, there were under 50,000 people attending. This year, it's over double that. It's still not to pre-COVID number of people attending, but there's a lot of excitement. The booths were very busy, lots of press day announcements, and a lot of excitement across all the areas that are here. And it's as wide of number of companies as there ever has been.
Well, Jeff, you've been at the show for a couple of days already, and Sony seems to have hogged all the headlines before the show with announcements in gaming and their EV partnership with Honda. There's a lot of action at the Samsung and LG booths as well, shape-shifting screens, invisible trackpads. What are some of the top trends that caught your eye at CES this year?
Absolutely. First, there's kind of a running joke that it's the convention of cars, which EVs and that certainly had their place. But I think the biggest theme, and it's around the automotive theme, is sustainability. And that's on two fronts. First, it's the electrification. So combustible engines are on the way out. There were cars, boats, scooters, lawnmowers, chainsaws, you name it. Anything that had a combustible engine, there are now electric alternatives, and that was a main green theme here. Speaking of automotive, it is just such an automotive show. There were all kinds of announcements, and I found that to be one of the big takeaways. Some of the key announcements, for example, Qualcomm, mainly a mobile application processor and modem for smartphones. They're getting into automotive. They have a C2V solution that will make intersections much safer. That was a big call out. Valeo, they've announced that they have sold over 1.5 billion ADAS sensors. And they had a couple new announcements of a new battery cooling technology. They also have new camera technology. They were doing demos for level 3 autonomous driving, which is still about 3 to 5 years out, but they were very impressive demos. There's a company called ZF Group. They're on the EV side, but for commercial vehicles. They announced a level 4 EV. Of course, this isn't legal on the streets yet, but for a closed loop. So if you think of a university or Yellowstone Park, they announced that they will be addressing that market. Theme parks in Florida, those are some examples. So this autonomous is coming, still not there yet, but there's a lot of action there.
And on the product front, is there something that particularly caught your eye?
I really was impressed with the health section. They've been around here for a long time, but there are watches, bands, rings, necklaces, earrings, all that are tracking health. And of course, there's the Garmin announcements and Apple Watch and, these $500 and $800 devices. But there's real theme here of democratization of health, bringing these tools to much lower price points because there's so much competition. And there's a real pull. There's activity sensing, sleep analysis, all the recovery and stress analysis that a heart rate sensor can track. There's temperature sensors even on the rings, the Oura rings, and there were a couple other companies that announced new ring technology. Even in those small devices, there are temperature sensors that are precursors to illness, ovulation sensors for women, and even payments can be made from these rings. So there's lots of excitement in this space, and I think it's going to help everyone and make us all healthier.
Now that's an interesting list, Jeff. The marketing team at CES pegs the event as the most influential tech event in the world. But I want to understand from you, because you've been tracking this for a while, is that really the case? How much of the concepts that we see on display in Las Vegas make it to the real world in the near future? Do they remain a pipe dream? And the real question I want to ask you is, has CES lost some of its sheen over the years?
I don't think so. Technology and the advancements always take longer than one expects. But once they do come into the market, sometimes it's even broader and even more accepted. A lot of these things are in the market now. Oura Ring, Circular Ring, and then, all the Garmin, Suntas, and all the smartwatch companies that we know about. But there's a lot more competition and a lot more coming out there. And even next 2 to 5 years, other items, non-invasive glucose monitoring, lactate monitoring. So there's still a lot of technology and stuff that's being showcased now that might not be ready, but it will be soon.
So much talk of the metaverse in the past couple of years, especially because of Mark Zuckerberg and his plans with Meta. But when we're talking about the sort of hardware which would fuel the metaverse, what kind of products have you seen in the VR, XR space? Anything that you think can make the metaverse a reality?
Yeah, certainly it will be, but it still needs a lot of time. There needs to be miniaturization. There needs to be better processing power. The low-hanging fruit right now is for training or education or seeing some other part of the world that you can't travel to, but you can experience it through an XR headset. That's happening. We saw lots of samples about that. There's lots new hardware players they're coming that will make it more competitive and bring the costs down. But as far as a lot of these metaverse applications, it's beyond what I talked about. They need a lot more work, and we have to be patient with them. This could be a longer journey than some of the calculations have been thus far.
Well, Jeff, thanks so much for joining us from CES Las Vegas and sharing all the latest from the world of tech and, of course, all the cool new product launches at CES.
If you like the video, do like, comment, share and subscribe.